Welcome to the video. If you are looking for a metabolism boost, you will be interested in what Keith has been doing for the past 6 months. Bundle up and we'll give you the cold hard facts in this video. Many of you recognize my husband Keith from videos here on this channel and also on the channel that we shared for many years called Two Fit Docs. That channel chronicled your 80-pound weight loss, and it's still up. You can go check out those videos. There's also a Two Fit Docs starter kit if you want to see how we got this whole ball rolling. There were a lot of things that you did during your weight loss journey that were beneficial. Some things took a toll on your metabolism. Some of those things were in your control. Some things were not in your control. So why don't I turn it over to you to kind of discuss that?
All right. My metabolism. Oh, and first of all, I'm a little out of practice, so I'm going to refer to some notes once in a while. So, I'm going to have to cheat. Don't get on me too much. So my metabolism. Number one, my age. I'm 63 years old. My metabolism is not the same as when I was 43. It's just never going to be. Number two, genetics. I've been blessed with about every instance of the obesity gene FTO, all the SNPs. I got them all. Right. So, that works against me too. I think the biggest thing, though, that had a negative impact on my metabolism was when we were doing Two Fit Docs videos. We were doing a lot of testing, and we would just self-test and do things. Fasting would become a big thing then. And so I thought, why not? Well, I'll do a 10-day fast on video. Yeah. And that had disastrous results on my metabolism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hindsight is 2020. We should have been not one of our best moves ever, but because of that, you have become very keyed in on ways to boost your metabolism. One of those things that you have been doing consistently for the past 6 months that you hate doing every single time is
cold exposure. Yeah. So cold exposure science. There's two main proponents of this, Dr. Rhonda Patrick and Dr. Andrew Huberman. Well, there's a lot of proponents, actually. These are the two that we kind of follow a little bit more. You're a little bit more Rhonda Patrick camp. I'm a little bit more Andrew Huberman camp, but they generally agree. So the metabolic advantages of cold exposure, and this is deliberate cold exposure. This is not falling off the Titanic into 30-degree water, is decreased inflammation, which we've known that cold is good to put on a sprain or strain or something that's inflamed. Increased mood and cognitive ability, which is really cool. We'll talk about that later. And also there's a metabolic advantage. Cold exposure actually releases norepinephrine. Huberman says also epinephrine, dopamine, all the catecholamines that get released. But norepinephrine is a major signaling molecule for mitochondrial biogenesis specifically in fat cells. Mm-hmm. So white fat, which is what we kind of think of when we think about our storage fat, has a few mitochondria. When it's subjected to this norepinephrine pulse, these mitochondria uncouple. And it's a term, it's the uncoupling protein 1 is what's kind of released. They uncouple, and that makes them very, very inefficient. It also spurs this process called mitochondrial biogenesis, where more mitochondria are made. So there's many more mitochondria in these fat cells.
Right, and we should just say that mitochondria are the energy-producing organelles in the cells.
Right. And they're typically efficient. They take fuel in the form of fat or carbs, acetyl-CoA goes into this process, they make ATP, very efficient. When they get uncoupled, they become inefficient. And when you get more of them, this white fat turns a different color, beige or brown. Mm-hmm. And so you get brown fat, and you may have heard of that before. This is a way to actually increase your amount of brown fat. Mm-hmm. So brown fat is very, like I said, inefficient. These mitochondria create a lot of heat. So instead of being efficient and making more fuel, they just, a lot of friction and heat and all that stuff goes in there. And that's what we want. That's actually burning calories with no result, it just makes heat.
Right.
And babies, actually tend to have a lot more brown fat because they can't shiver. So they're born with a higher level of brown fat, and it's in specific places in your body, clavicles, shoulder blades. But this is why you get this metabolism boost.
Yeah, and brown fat is really interesting, and it actually does turn the white fat beige or brown because of the high iron content in the mitochondria that are now being increased in the amount that are present. So this is the science behind it. So you became curious about doing it yourself, and we'll explain exactly what you do in a moment. First of all, has it worked for you?
It has worked for me, I believe. Now it's a long game. I mean, it's not something that you're going to notice on a daily basis that you're burning fat. But I feel that if I'm getting a little bit more brown fat made, that inefficient stuff, that's what I want to be. I want to be a gas guzzling big block muscle car, burning up a lot of fuel, instead of a very efficient Prius, which most people metabolisms have become. So I think it is working for me. And there's some other aspects to it, obviously we touched on, but definitely.
And we'll touch on some other benefits that you get and I got from my little experiment as well. But before we do that, let's be specific on what exactly you're doing and what we have gathered from the experts that we've looked at.
What I do specifically is 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I get out of a warm bed, usually a little bit before 5 in the morning, and I get in the shower. And I get into a warmish shower, like warm enough I can get in, and then I turn the knob to the 1 o'clock position, which I've determined is about 69, 70 degrees for me. And I'm in there for, well, I count to 300. So I want to be in there for at least 4 minutes. And I figure 300, if you're doing 300 seconds, that's 5 minutes. And I'm pretty sure I count faster than that. But that's, so 3 times a week. And that gives me, 12 minutes or so of cold exposure each week.
Yeah. And you're in this shower. So there's cold water immersion where you're in like a tub up to your neck. Or there's the shower perspective, which is something that you kind of took from Huberman. I will just say a couple of the experts out there recommendations. Dr. Rhonda Patrick said 20 seconds at 40 degrees Fahrenheit to increase norepinephrine 2 to 3-fold. And norepinephrine is that neurotransmitter that Keith mentioned that kind of gets the whole ball rolling as far as leading to decreased inflammation, increased mood and cognitive skills, and increasing the brown fat. She also mentioned that if you can't take 40 degree Fahrenheit for 20 seconds, which would be cold, you can do 1 minute at 50 degrees Fahrenheit to get that same 2 to 3-fold increase in norepinephrine. Still pretty chilly.
Right. And Dr. Andrew Huberman, who I kind of put my protocol together from some of the things that he had, he mentioned some pretty interesting studies. One of the studies where they took 3 groups of people and they had them immersed in water up to their neck for an hour each, which is a long time. Most cold exposure is not going to last that long. But what they did is they took one group at 89 degrees and they were measuring epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, core body temperature, a number of other things so that they could get an idea of their metabolism or their metabolic rate. So one group is in 89 degree water, no change for an hour.
Pretty warm.
The next group, it is pretty warm. Next group was at 68 degrees for an hour. That group experienced a 93% increase in their metabolism. That's almost double.
Impressive.
It's almost double. And it stays elevated for a number of hours after getting out of that water. Now, these poor people in this third group were in a 50 degree tub for an hour. They did experience 350% increase in their metabolism. So, but I don't want to do that.
That's a lot to add. That's a big ask.
Right. So what he came up with through all the research that he had kind of gleaned through was that 11 minutes total during the week split into 2 to 4 sessions of 3 to 4 minutes each, and less than 75 degrees. Now, my shower, first time I got in there, I just kept notching it down until it got to a point where it was pretty uncomfortable, and then I clicked it one more. So on my shower, I go to the 1 o'clock position, and that is about 69, 70 degrees from my shower.
Right, and how did you determine that temperature?
So I clicked it over there, and I had a meat thermometer from the kitchen, just held it up in the water, and that's what I got. Okay. So, and the other part of that is I do it every other day because I don't want to get adapted and get used to it. It needs to be something that I don't want to do.
Yeah, and you don't.
I don't.
And I don't either. But because we're doing this video, I thought I would never do this. I am not a cold-loving person. So I thought, I'm going to get too many comments about, why didn't you try it, Becky? So I did get in the shower, turned it to 1 o'clock, and yelled for 3 minutes and got through it. It wasn't fun. But I will say, I felt amazing. I felt amazing after it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were joking around, so maybe that was the lightheartedness too playing in there. But I actually did it again this morning for 2 minutes just to see, get myself all freshened up. It's the anticipation and that initiation barrier. You do have to get past that. But one of the big things that Dr. Rhonda Patrick talked about was the mood enhancement. And I will tell you, I think it has a tremendous ability to increase your mood.
Right. And I'll admit that I laughed at you this morning, but because, it's funny when it's not me. So, and one of the things we want to talk about, I hate doing this. So one of the kind of weird things that has come from this is this aspect of resilience, which has become an important thing for me. I think it's really important. So this cold exposure therapy, and as long as you're not adapting to it, and some people look forward to it. I don't look forward to it. I hate it. And that is the key. Doing something you hate actually increases your resilience, which Huberman would describe as, kind of your grittiness or your willpower. And I think being able to put yourself in a situation and use willpower to overcome that urge to get out of that situation and force yourself to stay in there, it carries over to so many different aspects of your life. So that's become an important part of it too. I get the metabolism and the resilience.
It's one of those things that comes from consistently doing something, right?
Yep.
And it's that hormetic effect, that hormesis, which is loosely defined as what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's truly what this is.
Right.
And maybe we should parlay that into the safety type of...
We definitely need to touch on that. So extremes of hot or cold can have dramatic effect on your body. Especially the heart, your cardiovascular system. You're getting constriction, you're getting dilation. Those things, if they happen too fast, it can have detrimental effects. I myself have a little bit of a cardiac issue. Getting into a 40-degree ice bath, I don't think would turn out good for me. If you are not in the peak of health, you should not be doing that extreme. I mean, it can cause your heart to stop. It's a serious thing. A lot of people are jumping into ice baths. If you want to try this, make sure that you're in good health before you try it, and try it in steps and step it down to that point. I would not be jumping into that.
And also, you're going to be tempted to go from a really hot shower to the really cold, and then back again. Don't do that. Keith gets in. So let me just reiterate to wrap this up, what you do, and emphasize the safety aspects of it as well. So Keith gets into a lukewarm shower, just enough to be able to step in, turns it to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, just so he's below that 75% or 75 degree Fahrenheit measure. Stands there and counts for 300 seconds, which works out to about 3 to 4 minutes, and then goes back to a lukewarm.
I do not.
You do not. You just stop.
I stop it and step out.
All right. So if you want to try that and you are in good cardiovascular health and you'd be smart about it, give it a try. I will say, I always thought he was nuts for this past 6 months for doing this. When I tried it, it was an experience. And I actually did it a second time, albeit for just 2 minutes that time.
Now, I've been one in 31 years of marriage. I'll jump into a swimming pool.
Yeah.
It'll take you half an hour to inch your way in, if you ever make it in. So our cold, our ability to tolerate cold, or cold tolerance is very different. And that's the way it's going to be with most people. So.
Yeah. So you're proud of me for doing the 5 minutes that I've done this week.
Still funny.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We hope this is helpful and gives you some ideas for boosting your metabolism. Have a great rest of your day.
See ya.